Oliveira. Last year, you remember that run of 3 podiums in a row, had the win in Barcelona when, I have to say, it was a case of survival of the fittest, and he showed, Neil, on that day he had what it takes to be at the top in MotoGP.
Yeah.
That we are going racing, and Fabio Quartararo gets away with a big wheelie though from Jorge Martin. Look at all the people getting bogged down, quite literally at the start, and it's Miguel Oliveira coming through from the 3rd row of the grid from 7th place. He's going to challenge Quartararo. Alex Rins from the 3rd row, he's in 8th, but he's run very, very wide in turn 1. So it is Quartararo leading from Oliveira, one of the Pramac riders. I'm assuming it's Zarco on the inside. Yes, it is. Also coming through one of the factory Ducatis. I believe that is going to be Jack Miller. Of course it's Jack Miller. He's going to love these conditions. Of course, he's won in the wet previously.
Yeah, Zarco's coming through, Gav, but he got a terrible start off the line. He just went backward, but since then he's made up some ground. And in these conditions, if you can lead, it's such an advantage. You've got no spray on your visor, you can see everything so clearly. So Quartararo's in such a good place right now.
Yeah, and don't forget, he finished on the podium at home in Le Mans when we had a flag-to-flag race last year, and he came through behind Jack Miller and Johan Zarco. Also, when Petrucci won a couple of years ago, keep an eye on Paul Espargaro, because he's good in these conditions. He finished on the podium on that day on the KTM. Here is the leader, Fabio Quartararo from Miguel Oliveira. Then it's Jack Miller in 3rd. Alex Rins is in 4th place. Then it's Johan Zarco from Jorge Martin, with Frankie Morbidelli making a decent start. Joan Mir is already up into 8th place from 18th on the grid.
If there's anything we could have learned from the World Superbike race back in November, is this track is super grippy in these conditions. You can see lap times inside 10 seconds of a dry lap time. So, and I'm sure the riders will be well aware of that, because if you can tell already how fast they're going.
And look at this, and look at that straight away. Fabio Quartararo wasn't too happy, was he, about leading onto the straight? The thing is, Neil, in these conditions, when there's this much spray, the best place to be, almost, is at the front. You don't necessarily want to be the scout for the whole field, as Miller and Quartararo almost come together in there, but Miller just breezed past Fabio. You get the spray effect, that's another thing, but if you're out front, you haven't got that issue.
No, absolutely. And Jack Miller, we know how experienced in these conditions. And it's almost like he's got that positive mental attitude in tricky, wet conditions. He's got that free sort of Aussie, it'll be all right, and just give it a go. And that helps so much. If you're tense, if you're nervous in these conditions, it's really difficult to feel the tyres, understand what the motorcycle's doing. So, yeah, Jack's doing a great job here.
And he's going to come through, he's going to go and lead. Straight away, past Miguel Oliveira. He takes charge of this race, and as you said, grip levels are good here in the wet conditions. That's what we learned from the end of last year when World Superbike came in. Remember, they postponed their first race because of similar conditions we've seen today, but we are racing here, and almost, Neil, you have to trust the surface, trust the fact that there's going to be grip for you.
Yeah, which is so much easier said than done. Absolutely. On the opening laps. Don't get me wrong, you can wait for the race to come to you, but if someone risks a lot like something like Jack Miller's prepared to do, he will be long gone. So in the Superbike race, it took them a few laps to realise that, and it was the last laps where they really started to almost trust the grip. But like I said, riders like Jack Miller and Miguel Oliveira, he's always been good in the wet, are prepared to risk a bit more.
2 laps down, 18 to go. Miller is the fastest rider on the circuit. He's doing a 141.92. Miguel Oliveira's 142.8. The other riders in the 42s, Rins a 42.5 and Joan Mir a 42.4. He's motoring on, is the 2020 world champion. Their race was pretty much done, wasn't it, if it was going to be in the hot conditions at Suzuki? And look at it, how it can turn round just with a change in the climactic conditions.
Yeah, don't you feel like that's going to be a story of this season, from one week to the next? Some people having great, strong weekends, and then you get to the next track and the bike's not working if they haven't got the right tyres on. So it's going to be an interesting year. Just looking down, Enea Bastianini, the championship leader's down in 16th, and he's lapping 4 seconds a lap slower than the top guys. And he's obviously riding tight. He's waiting for the race to come to him. But when you're 4 seconds a lap off the pace, well, look,
he's already 10 seconds behind.
Already. Exactly. By the time you're 5 laps in, your race is done.
Everyone's gone with those medium tyres in the end. The one suggested to us by Piero Taramasso when he was chatting to Natalie earlier. Miguel Oliveira's just tucked in behind Jack Miller, letting Jack dictate the pace, ready to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong. It's getting tight in behind Quartararo. I think Zarco fancies this. Remember, he's never won a MotoGP race before. Could today be the day for the other Frenchman, Zarco, of course himself a double Moto2 world champion who always has gone well in the wet conditions. Further back, there's Morbidelli, there is Jorge Martin, who I'm actually surprised at. Never been one of those massive wet weather riders you talk about.
No, not at all. If you look at Zarco, if he wants to win, he has to go now. He's got to get past Fabio, and actually both Rins and Johan Zarco have got past Fabio. He was the roadblock there. You could see he's lapping a couple of seconds off what the front guys are running.
He came back there through turn one. He doesn't trust it out the final corner though, does it? And of course, certain things, certain aspects of these bikes do play to different strengths when we come into these kinds of conditions. And the Yamaha was having problem in the wet at certain points over the last couple of years. You can see him getting out on the paint on the outside, and his rear lit up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happened there. Like, normally you try and avoid going on the curbs on the outside of the track for that reason.
Two at the front, 41.1 for both Jack Miller and Miguel Oliveira. And Miguel Oliveira is doing a fantastic job here, just sticking with Jack, just follow him. Of course, that's got its own issues. If you aren't able to do that pace, then you might get caught out. But they are pulling away, and the gap back to Rins stands at 2 seconds. It's actually come down on this lap by 0.3 of a second.
Just looking further down the field, and you mentioned Darren Binder before the start of the race. He's worked his way up to 18th place. He's now directly behind the championship leader, Enea Bastianini, but he can't believe it.
Further back down, Brad Binder I'm surprised at, because in that wet race, remember in Austria last year when he stayed out on the slick tyres in wet conditions, he doesn't mind a damp race in Le Mans. I think he was 5th in that race last year, yeah, he can raid in these conditions, but it's not working for him. It is for his teammate Miguel Oliveira.
It's an important race this for Jack Miller. If you look at it, already his teammate is signed up. Bagnaia's got a contract for the next 2 years, and we know a lot of people are after that seat, aren't they? Whoa! That's what happens when you hit a curb.
And that's it, you get on the paint and the water sits, it gathers like a pool on the paint. I tell you what, Jorge Martin is so lucky. And the other thing that happens if you go down, the spray, and people can't see you. That's why it's so treacherous in these conditions. It looks like it's getting worse to me, the rain out there. Remember, we've already had a race that's been reduced from 27 laps down to 20. So a 3/4 race distance here would be 15 laps down. We're on lap 5 now. Oliveira looks strong through there. Is he going to take over? I think he is. And Jack says, go on then, Miguel, you have a go at the front. He's obviously been able to watch him here, Neil, and say, I think I can have a little bit more than the Aussie.
Yeah, normally in this situation, you're looking at your pit board, it's going up. If you're Miguel Oliveira, you can see that you're pulling away from third. Normally a rider would sit there, but the reason he's not doing is he knows he's got more pace, and he's thinking, right, I'm just going to go, I'm going to check out. It's such an important weekend for both riders. Miguel Oliveira, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but his ride's potentially in danger, because you look at his teammate, he's got a 2-year contract. Miguel Oliveira's out of contract at the end of this year, and he wants to secure either a ride staying there at KTM, or I'm sure some of the other manufacturers are talking to him. So a good result at this point in the season. I tell you what, he's checking out already, isn't he?
7/10 quicker on that last lap for Miguel Oliveira, race winner in Barcelona. I fancied him for a shot today. That's Pecco Bagnaia. Bagnaia, who has gone off track. He was riding in 9th place, but he will certainly drop down the order now. He drops back behind Brad Binder and into 12th position. But at the front, and that was the moment.
Horrible. He was so lucky there. Looked like he locked the front on the brakes. Normally that's a phase plant. He did very, very well to keep that under control.
So as we head down to turn 10, Miguel Oliveira leading from Jack Miller now, really taking it to, let's not forget, Oliveira is a 3-time race winner for KTM. So if they are going to replace him, it better be someone good, because he's brought them a lot of success over the last couple of years. I imagine they want to keep him, but they've got such a stable of talent, haven't they? Maybe he would like to go elsewhere. Maybe he feels he'd be better suited. We always thought that, you know, some of the big top teams would want him. There just doesn't seem to be space anywhere. And I honestly thought, Neil, even in the dry, he had a chance today, just considering how well he rode in Barcelona last year, when it was a similar kind of battle of attrition.
Oliveira's looked a different man this weekend, completely different. Last time out in Qatar, stronger throughout the weekend, but in the race, crashed out of a lonely 8th place, really. And he's been disappointing. You can't say he's not, since the summer break of last year. Had those couple of wins early on in the season, and we thought, wow, potential championship threat for Oliveira, and then it just all went wrong with that crash straight after the summer break, breaking his hand. And from that point on, he's just never been able to find any form. But like I say, this weekend he's looked a different rider, and what a time to try and take a win.
It's a fantastic point in the season, isn't it, to get one in the back pocket early on and say, hello, look, I'm capable of this sort of thing. When you're going into negotiations, that's exactly what you want. There is Luca Marini, 4 seconds down on Morbidelli, ahead of Brad Binder and Paul Espargaro behind him. Well, it was going to be a disaster in the dry. I suppose 11th place, maybe that's more than he might have hoped for in the dry conditions, because Honda, well, Paul Espargaro in particular, has been furious this weekend that Michelin brought their safety tyres. But I'm not sure you can blame Michelin when we've seen the track starting to break up, and we've seen temperatures possibly going to exceed 16 degrees. They've got to go with safety, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got to go with safety, and I tell you what, Miguel Oliveira's got to go with safety. Running out onto the curbs there, that was a warning for him there. You saw it spin up, even in a straight line. Keep off those curbs. There's one thing we know about this track. Everything is new here, everything is fresh, including the paint on those curbs.
Oh, I'm surprised that Dobby, actually, although we do know the Yamaha can be a tricky beast, he had so much success in damp conditions on the Ducati. But is this a problem, actually, with his bike? Just seems to be rolling along at the side of the circuit. Dobby was up to 13th place, but he's dropped to the back on the field. Didn't look to be any damage on the bike, Neil.
No, I don't think it's hard to tell, but I don't think he'd been down the road. So, yeah, it looks like a technical issue for him.
He can get water in the system, quite literally. Oh, and that's Martin crashing out at turn 1. It's a fast one in there, but Jorge Martin has crashed out of the second race in the championship. So 2 DNFs to start the year. This one, though, Neil, of his own fault.
Yeah, but he locks the front. Let's watch this. Cuts across on the brakes.
Oh, it's the puddle.
Washes out. I tell you, that was... there's not a lot you can do. The only issue, he's got a little bit of lean angle here as he goes over that wet patch. If it had been straight up and down, a little bit more upright, there may be a chance of saving it, but when you've got a little bit of lean angle, the front box and literally face plants you.
Full stream across the track, you've got to watch out for there at turn 1. That's something we'll keep our eye on, just like that one, as they come out of turn 11 into 12 here with your race leader, Miguel Oliveira. Became a father at the end of last year to young Alice, and his wife Andrea, of course, delighted at that, but he hasn't knocked any speed off for him in these risky conditions. There's Rees in 3rd place, also became a father last year. He was quite as a baby boom, wasn't you, in the MotoGP paddock after COVID, with Marc Marquez too. There is Pecco Bagnaia, the boss now at KTM. And do you know what? We had a really good chat with him, didn't we, in Qatar? We get on well anyway with Francesco. He's a long-time member of this paddock, worked with Aprilia, KTM in the past, actually, back in the lower classes, then at Pramac for years. But what he said almost, Neil, what I love, is he almost brought an Italian feel to a very pragmatic squad, which was testing everything left, right and centre. And it was a bit like, hey, we've not got it too bad, let's just stick with what we've got and learn with it and build from there.
Yeah, and quite interestingly, he also said about let the test team do the testing. The race team's for racing. Let's work on your race setup. Let's work on it. In fact, let's work on ourselves. I'm talking about the riders. You know, there's more time to come from you. You're not on the absolute limit.
Oh, my goodness me, Paul Espargaro. You are so lucky. I mean, there's a lot of skill in there too, I will say, but that one's going to be really nasty.
That's low. That is, look, I know it sounds horrible, but when a bike flicks like that, you're literally a passenger. Look at the lap time. So these conditions are, as you can see, incredibly wet. So Miguel Oliveira's just done a 1 minute 39.8.
Amazing.
Pole position is a 1 minute 31. So to be like, what's that, 9 seconds off?
Yeah,
it's
well,
incredible.
we
8
talk
seconds.
about 10%, don't we? So it's a 90-second lap in effect for pole position. So 10% usually, you'd say, would be a 140 actually, and he's underneath that. So they are inside, which just tells us, doesn't it, Neil, that we are at a grippy racetrack in the wet conditions. And it's funny, isn't it, when what we've been talking about all weekend is the rear walking round on people not trusting the grip at the racetrack. You come in these conditions because it's a new asphalt, and it's right there. This track is grippy in the dust. Yeah, absolutely. Just looking a little bit, look, wow, he's gone even faster as Miguel. He's just in the 39.5. So
you'd like to
Riggs has followed him with a 39.7, Zarco a 39.9. It's Miller, the one who's just dropping back in terms of pace, a 40.2 from the Aussie.
Yeah, the track's coming to them a little bit. As you can see, it's still a little bit of standing water in some places, but the rest of the track, obviously we're a million miles away from a dry line, by the way, but yeah, the track's looking a little bit more manageable now.
The Hondas are having a terrible day. I thought Alex Marquez in that Le Mans race, do you remember when Danilo Petrucci won it in 2020? It was in the cold Le Mans. Alex Marquez stuck it on the podium, didn't he? And looked fantastic. But this new Honda, you know, it was all about the front end was a little bit dicey, but almost you knew where it was. Perhaps that's the kind of issue that they're having here. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but Espargaro 12th, pole that is. Alex Marquez 14th, Taka Nakagami 19th. Marc Marquez, you have just joined us in the hospital with a serious concussion. He is okay, but he's missing this weekend, and I'm sure will be assessed before the next round in Argentina. Yeah, 4 massive crashes for Marc Marquez and a huge one this morning, as big as you'll ever see, to be honest. So it was the right decision for him not to race, I'm sure, like you said, with a bit of concussion. I mean, it was not nice to watch, was it? It was a violent crash, big impact on the ground, 110 miles an hour high side. So all I know is he'll be wanting the old Honda back. Yeah, I think it would have been all right for him in these kinds of conditions. I want to ask about conditions. We're halfway through. Yeah, Bastianini, the championship leader, down in 11th place. Marc Marquez, he's not even racing. 20 points a day is huge. It is, of course, Quartararo only picked up 7 at the opening round when we were in Qatar. There you can see, 2 laps to go. You've got Zarco 1.3 behind, and I think that's the crucial one, isn't it, Neil? That if you can manage that 1.3 seconds, you know what Zarco's pace is. You've followed him for a while in this race. Just stick to that. At 1:38.9, Oliveira's up to his pace. It's not going to be enough unless there's a mistake. And when it gets to this stage of the race, Neil, as we know, in these kinds of conditions, a momentary brain fade. I think back to John McPhee. Do you remember that race in Brno on that occasion, on the last lap, and he does the old full Superman, and we had our hearts in our mouths. He brought it home safely in the end, but just a moment like that could cost him. Bastianini's got into this race. Yeah, it's taken him the whole race, but I tell you what, his pace now is impressive. He's not going around the outside there. He is. He's going to run off the track. He is. He's going to go deep, and Binder doesn't need a second invitation to reclaim 8th spot. I thought there was going to be contact, but it's Binder leading that group. Darren Binder, that is. Brilliant ride from the rookie. Fantastic for that new With You R&F racing team. You'd have thought it'd have been Dobby on a day like this. Oh, as Bastianini fires it through on the inside, through that kink in there. That is incredible from Enea Bastianini. Yeah, but hey, Darren's having none of it. We lost nothing over throughout his career. Just brake after the person in front of you has hit the brakes and you'll pass them. That's the law of the jungle that he's grown up with, isn't it? Definitely, it's been like that ever since he was a kid. Here comes 3-1. Aleix is going to come through on the inside of Bastianini now. This is superb. But unfortunately, this battle is for 8th place, however good it is, as now Brad Binder gets involved. This one's going to get tight towards the end. We're on to our last lap. This race has absolutely flown by. Of course, it was reduced from the start, but wet races just seem to last and last on some occasions. Today, it's been non-stop action. Oliveira out front in a league of his own. He should be able to bring it round throughout this final lap. 2.6 miles of the track. He's got 2.8 seconds on Fabio Quartararo. Quartararo for me is the one who's really come to the fore. Everything to lose today, and yet he's ridden through the field. He's risking even on this last lap.
Incredible to be out on the curbs there with a little bit of lean angle. I don't want this to sound bad, Miguel, but I'd rather be watching the battle for 8th, because that's going to be harum scarums, isn't it?
Well, without a doubt, as he comes around through turn 11, now into 11, a little flick onto the left. That patch of water, every single time I see it, I think, oh, don't go near it, but they just pulled the bike back round through 12. Here we go then for Miguel Oliveira. Last year, you remember that run of 3 podiums in a row, had the win in Barcelona, when I have to say it was a case of survival of the fittest, and he showed, Neil, on that day he had what it takes to be at the top in MotoGP.
Yeah, stunning. It's a typical Oliveira ride. If he gets that into the front and he feels confident on that KTM, this is what he can do.
On the KTM, a 4th Grand Prix victory, but first of the season for the Austrian manufacturer. It's victory for Miguel Oliveira in Indonesia in horrible conditions. Fabio Quartararo takes a brilliant 2nd place. Johan Zarco is 3rd, with Jack Miller off the podium cruelly in 4th. The Suzuki's pick up good points in 5th and 6th place. Then it's going to be Frankie Morbidelli next across the line, and it looks to me like actually Brad Binder has made it to the front of this group at the end of the race. It is going to be from Aleix Espargaro, Pol Espargaro back in 12th, it's Brad across the line from Aleix, and then it's Darren from Enea Bastianini and Pol Espargaro